you're called the Trump whisperer, and you are also described as his favorite reporter. And as you know, that's a very select crowd.
I see him grab his ear. I see the blood across his face. The one thing that I saw that kind of gave me a glimmer of like maybe he's okay, or at least not completely mortally wounded, was that he took himself down, right? He didn't fall down. He wasn't knocked off of his feet. So maybe he's, basically not dead.
What does the famous Trump whisperer say now about Donald Trump? Welcome to the Sanity Podcast, everyone, with Dave Briggs and Allison Camerata. Please remember to subscribe to Sanity and like this episode. Dave, really fascinating to talk to journalist Salena Zito, who you will remember was the famous journalist in 2015 who basically knew that Trump could win because she said that his voters take him seriously, not literally, and the press takes him literally, not seriously. And that framed his first campaign in a way that really brought it home for every reader and viewer.
And that phrase continues to resonate today, and it's quoted almost every day if you watch cable news, which is truly remarkable. And she takes a deep dive into her state of Pennsylvania, which really explains, Allison, how Trump has continued to have this hold on voters, an emotional connection that, frankly, most of us, certainly in the Beltway, do not understand.
She also was 4 feet away from President Trump, Donald Trump at that time, candidate Trump, when he was almost assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania. She had to hit the floor. She watched the Secret Service tackle the president to the floor. She saw exactly what he said at that moment. She saw what happened in the aftermath. So she has a new book out called Butler that takes us through second by second of what happened. And more importantly, Dave, or I guess just as importantly, what has happened in the year since. It's exactly a year since that assassination attempt. And she talks at length about how that moment changed Donald Trump and the country.
All right, it's on bookshelves right now. Butler, the untold story of the near assassination of Donald Trump and the fight for America's heartland. The author, the journalist, Salena Zito, here with us now. Salena, great to have you. You were 4 feet away when this all went down. You said you felt the velocity in the same split second that I heard 4 gunshots. Take me back to that moment and what that felt like being with your daughter and son-in-law.
So my daughter took the photo for the cover. We had just visited with President Trump right before he went on stage. He wanted to say hi. We were going to fly with him to Bedminster and do the interview. He wanted to say hi to me just before he went on stage and said, see you, he basically said, see you on the plane. We'll do a great interview. If you've ever watched a Trump rally or if you've ever gone to one, it's a very transactional relationship. He feeds off of them and they feed off of him. It was in those moments that the gunshots I knew immediately was what it was. I'm a gun owner. And that's when everything changed. I see him grab his ear. I see the blood across his face. The one thing that I saw that kind of gave me a glimmer of like maybe he's okay, or at least not completely mortally wounded, was that he took himself down, right? He didn't fall down. He wasn't knocked off of his feet. So maybe he's, basically not dead.
And so it's interesting that you have this front row seat on what happens with this assassination attempt. But I just do want to give people some context. You're called the Trump whisperer, right. And you are also described as his favorite reporter. And as you know, that's a very select crowd because he so often denigrates and insults the press. And so in your book, so that was an intense moment. Yeah. But tell us about why it warrants a book and what kind of happened from that moment in his life and yours.
Well, there's a number of reasons why it's important. The book is important. This is something that frustrates me with pollsters when they ask questions, with strategists when they analyze people and analyze politics. There's a whole group of people that decide elections, that make their decisions based on community and place and their family, that has much to do with how rooted they are to where they're from. And I saw it continue after Butler. And I thought it was really, really important to document that and try to instruct people that this is happening, and it may change American politics, that this is more important to most Americans than other things that are brought up, and how that day changed absolutely everything. I think there are 2 days in American politics in this cycle that changed everything. One was the decision by President Trump in February of 2023, then former President Trump, to show up on a really gross Appalachian day. Skies are gray, there's sleet, there's snow, and he shows up in East Palestine, Ohio. It's right on the Pennsylvania border. Nobody else shows up before that. No President Biden, he barely mentions it. You have to go like 300 White House press releases to finally get them to even acknowledge that it happened. So we don't even know what's in the air at this moment. We don't know what's in the puddles and the mud that he's walking in.
But so much to unpack there, Salena. I'm sorry to cut you off. You talked about the connection to the voters, but how it changed Trump, I think, is really interesting, or at least presumably did. Yeah. You were there, and you say chapter 3, in fact, is the hand of God.
Yeah.
Trump spoke about God and religion in the aftermath of this. And as for his RNC speech immediately following, he said, this is a chance to bring the whole country, even the whole world, together. I never got a sense that that was Trump's goal, nor have I ever seen him, through his actions, try to bring the world or the country together. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look what happened with NATO. Okay. I mean, do you remember his first trip with NATO? Now look at this one. He's trying to weave things together. You might not like, not meaning you, but you, who's ever listening to this, you might not like the way he goes about it. You might not like his comportment, but this is a man that definitely wants to bring things together. He doesn't go about it in very traditional presidential ways, but a lot of people will say to you, well, those haven't quite worked anyways. And so you wouldn't see, I don't know how long it lasts. Maybe it lasts forever, but you didn't expect to see a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. And you didn't, and you didn't expect him to now be talking about Ukraine in a thoughtful way. This is a guy who wants everybody working together. He does not go about it in the way that other presidents have prosecuted that intent, but none of them have been successful.
But that coming to God, that coming to Jesus moment is what I can't quite figure out, because how do you reconcile that with someone who sends masked ICE agents to snatch hardworking immigrants and send them to unknown destinations, that cuts Snap, that makes fun of a disabled reporter, and says this on the 4th of July of all holidays? Listen.
All of the things that we've given, and they wouldn't vote only because they hate Trump. But I hate them too, you know that? So it's sort of, I really do, I hate them. I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country. You want to know the truth?
Is that a man that found God and that wants to bring us together?
Yeah. I mean, come on. How many times have people that are my neighbors called deplorable, bitter, clinging, garbage? You know, I think that's an unfair comparison that you're making. And
how's that? He said he hates Democrats.
Well, so did Joe Biden call Republicans extremist and that they're bad people. I mean, look what people are saying about our ICE agents. That I am the mayor of my city calling them, or my former city, Pittsburgh, calling them terrorists. This is the rhetoric that we're stuck with.
Well,
But
I mean,
that
I hear
doesn't
you, Salena,
mean
but I mean, he is the president. He's the leader. It comes from the top. I mean, I
that's
take
the
both of your point. Hold on. Let me make my point. I take both your points, but I do think that having the president say he hates half of America, or however many Americans he's referring to, why doesn't that matter? I mean, I don't know what that says about his relationship with God, but I know that that's not peaceful rhetoric. That's not kind rhetoric. So what is that?
It's the same thing that Joe Biden said about half the country.
But,
So
but we're talking about Trump. I mean, why is it, if Trump is changed, does he have that rhetoric?
because that's the rhetoric we have today. And look, I said this 9 years ago. Voters take him seriously, but they don't take everything that he says literally.
His
They don't
supporters,
believe he hates everyone. You wouldn't see him sitting down. You wouldn't see him sitting down with John Fetterman at his home in Mar-a-Lago if he hated every Democrat, right? And you wouldn't see him break bread with Joe Manchin if he hated every Democrat.
but words matter, right? I mean, we're journalists. Words matter.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you'll have to ask him. I'm trying to tell you what he said to me the day after he was shot.
Your quote is brought up every day. I swear it's the most famous quote attributed to the president. If you could just recite how his supporters, how the press takes him, and what you mean by that.
Well, voters took him seriously. They took him seriously since the moment he came down that escalator and he talked about the dignity of work. They took him seriously.
And the press takes him
literally. So every single word that he says, like you guys just said, you take that he literally hates people.
Well, not exactly. I don't know what let me just clarify that. I don't know how he really feels. I'm not in his head. I mean that saying that as the president, as the leader of our country, is not helpful.
When was that clip from?
4th of July.
Was that 4th of July? I don't remember you telling me. Yeah. I mean, that's the way he talks. That is the way he talks. I'm not to judge whether it's great or not great. That's not my wheelhouse.
So that connection to the voters, let's talk about Bucks County, because you write about it in your book and you write about it often. Bucks County supported Hillary in 2016, Biden in 2020. They voted for Fetterman and Shapiro and continued to come out for President Trump. Is that connection, does it have anything to do with policy, or is it entirely emotional?
It's like I said before, it has a lot to do with place. People don't understand that. 8 out of 10 Americans live within like 50 miles of where they grew up. Mm-hmm. So they're very wedded to place and what's best for their community. And I mean, voter registration in Bucks County has dramatically changed. And the people haven't changed, but it has gone from majority Democrat registered county by a significant amount of people.
I'm sorry to cut you off. What is it? If you could explain, like, I don't think it has anything to do with policy.
I think there's a lot of things that do with policy. I mean,
which ones?
I would say the border has been a huge one for people.
Yeah,
absolutely huge one. There have been 5 people in Western Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh alone that have died because of someone that crossed the border illegally. And that has had a significant impact on culture. And people, I don't know why my profession fails to understand that you can embrace and love an immigrant that comes here legally, but be wary and skeptical of someone that does not. And that they don't believe that breaking the law is okay.
I have a question that goes with this. I've always wondered this. Do you think Donald Trump would just as easily have run as the Democratic candidate as he would have the Republican?
No, because the Democratic Party's changed too much. Look, Barack Obama was the last Democrat to keep the New Deal Democrats within the party. Those are working class Democrats, working class whites, working class Hispanics, blacks, everyone. In 2008, he won Pennsylvania by almost 11 percentage points. By 2012, he only won them by just under 5 percentage points. He had shed those voters. He didn't lose. Those voters still liked him personally, but they didn't like his policies. They had nowhere to go. They didn't show up in 2012. They showed up in 2016 and 2024.
It's really interesting. I have a question. Oh, another question about Butler. There's always, I don't know, conspiracy theory is probably a little too strong, but there are questions about what happened in Butler, and it's so helpful to have your eyewitness account. One of the questions is, did a bullet really hit President Trump? And the reason there's that question, and I can't wait to hear your response to this, is because,
My reaction tells you everything.
It really does. But let me finish the thinking here, which is Dave and I have covered, sadly, countless school shootings. I'm sure you have too, Salena. And so, an AR-15 doesn't usually nick someone. It blows a hole in the target. And so that was the first question of whether or not there was a shard of a teleprompter, a piece of glass or something that nicked him. Look, it was an assassination attempt. Okay, there's no question, but that the other people who were hit were killed or grievously injured. And furthermore, the Trump campaign and Trump's doctors and the Trump administration never released the medical records. So that does lead some questions as to exactly what happened. So why wouldn't they be transparent about that?
I mean, you have to ask them. But that was a bullet.
Did you ask them? I mean, is that in the book about what the findings were?
No, because I was standing right there. I saw exactly what happened. There was no shards of glass that hit him. There was a bullet that hit him. A man won a Pulitzer Prize for capturing that bullet. I don't know why that exists out there. I don't think it's very, very good. I mean, you talk about the president talking about not liking people, or people hate him, or he hates them. This is not very good for the country to continuously make this assertion like, well, does he really shot? I'm laying on the ground that day and I'm seeing reports come up that saying he's hit by glass, and I had just witnessed him being shot. So, and other people were shot as well.
I want to unpack an interesting statement you write here. Trump did not create this coalition. He is the result of it. Yes. This coalition will go on. How does it go on when Donald Trump is off the stage? Because I've never seen anyone else be able to have that connection that you write about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there'll never be another one like him. Absolutely. The reason why it goes on is because the Democrats continuously not understand this. They don't understand how they've lost the middle class. They don't understand how they've lost the working class. Their messaging is god awful. You don't have to ask me. I just interviewed Rahm Emanuel. He'll tell you that.
I say that just about every episode. So we are simpatico on that. But my question is more the Trump factor. I agree with what you just said. But once Trump is gone, how do you engage those voters? Can anyone actually communicate Trumpism and engage those people?
So how
you Vance, Marco Rubio, whomever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think both of them are capable of doing that. They've both proved to be very good orators. And they've both proved to be able to engage voters in a meaningful and thoughtful way. The problem is the middle class and the working class. And they are right there where conservative populism is, and not where the Democratic Party is today.
Salena, as a journalist, and I think this is a really important one, one of the things that frustrates journalists in covering Trump is having to fact check in real time and always fact check him because he does play so loose and fast with the facts. And how do you deal with that? I mean, why does that frustrate you? And knowing him better, covering him more than other reporters, how do you explain his propensity for lying?
Well, I usually cover it from the worldview of the people that'll decide the election, right? How do you see it? When he said that, how do you view it? And if you read my stories, it's not my opinion, it's the people that he talks to. You know, they all exaggerate, right? To one degree or another. And social media has almost made it acceptable to just continue to do that. And so I don't know how do we get to the root of that from everybody doing it, but we do have to get to the root of why are voters persuaded by that. And a lot of it has to do with disruption. And people are so unhappy with both parties. I think they don't mind him saying things the way he does because he is disrupting a system they believed has not been trustworthy and has not had their back.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, because right now, at least the younger MAGA coalition is furious that they accused the DOJ and the FBI for years of being the deep state. And now they come to see, wait, it's the deep state and it's Trump people with this Jeffrey Epstein story. But first I want to ask you.
I gotta say, the Epstein outrage is a very online thing. Just like 90% of the stuff I covered last year is an online thing. We have to really step back and cover people where they are rather than cover them on social media.
Hold on, I want to drill down that. So when you say it's an online thing, meaning it's not a real issue, meaning like when you go
it's not an issue that people are talking about.
Just online.
It's a very online thing, right? Like it's like, and it's sexy and it's fun and it gets people riled up on both sides, right? It's like, it's a moment meant for social media, but it's not a moment.
But it's also Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and people that really have, maybe not to the Trump whisperer standpoint, but really have their thumb on the pulse of MAGA. But let me ask you this. I didn't intend to ask you about Epstein. Here is my controversial opinion on it. Even if he's in those files, even if he slept with someone underage, my presumption is it won't matter at all with MAGA. Would it matter if he's in the files? And is there anything Trump can do that would break his bond with MAGA?
Well, who's he? Who are you talking about? He? I'm sorry. I didn't
President Trump.
Oh, that's what you think? Wow. Of course that would matter to people. Those are children. I don't think that's the case. I mean, I haven't been following this relentlessly because I've been busy, but I just haven't had the moment to examine it, I guess, as robustly as I normally would. I suspect, this is just my suspicion. I don't have, it's not based on anything. But I suspect if there are documents or files or whatever the word is, that likely there is people in there, just normal people, regular people that maybe had lunch with him or maybe were with him, meaning Epstein. That nothing nefarious happened. They didn't even know that this guy was what this guy was, right? And in a world that we live in where we can destroy someone's life online instantly, this is just my suspicion, but if there is anything that's not being released, to me, I think that would be the reason why it's not released. But that, again, it's based on nothing other than my gut.
So Salena, how do you describe where we are now? How do you describe Trump 2.0?
This is a man who believes God saved him in that moment. Now, this is a man who believes that was the hand of God. He said that to me several times. And this is a man who believes he has purpose. They're different from 2017, and you can see it in just the way that he has run this past year. And I mean, not run as a campaign, but run the country. It's very disciplined, very different from 2017. He has an agenda. I've been around a long time, since Dwight Eisenhower was president. Second terms never look like this. Second terms are very, very different. And this is not being run like a second term at all.
You're right. They're often lame duck. I think he's had a very good couple of weeks until the last the last couple of days have been a little odd. What do you make of his repeated barbs, jokes? Sometimes it feels too serious about a third term. Will he ever be able to relinquish this power that is his fuel, is his oxygen? Will he be able to exit the stage gracefully?
Yeah. I mean, he's trolling you guys. He's not going to run for a third term. He's said that so many times. When he says it, it's to goad the press. It's to goad the Democrats. But when he's had serious interviews, he said, no, I'm not going to run for a third term. But that stays out there because he's messing with you guys.
Not just because, hold on, Salena, not just because he's messing with the press, which of course he always does. It's that he denied losing in 2020. So there is some skepticism about his handle on whether or not he can handle losing.
Well, but he's not going to lose because he's not going to run.
Okay.
It's just not happening.
One of the men who will enter the stage, I believe, is Governor Shapiro of your great state of Pennsylvania. He seems to be a leader that really connects. Could he be a man who's elected president? Can he connect with the people that you talk to every day?
Yeah, he's throughout the book. I mean, there's some in-depth emotional interviews with Governor Shapiro. He's a very talented political athlete. He understands place. We talk about it in the book in the way that Trump does. The two of them have a lot in common, more so than you think. I mean, Josh Shapiro's mantra is get shit done. And that, am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
You are.
Okay.
Encouraged.
Yeah. He told me that in his story. I did an in-depth interview with him on the day after he was sworn in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And he says, every meeting we have one, every morning we have a meeting. It's called Get Shit Done. And that is very much Donald Trump as well. And they also share a ton of voters. I mean, look at his results from 2022 and look at President Trump's results from 2025. The overlap is impressive for both men. The same with John Fetterman.
Yeah, I was astounded by Trump's 48% with Hispanics, up from 36.
I was not astounded. If y'all read it, you know that
you weren't, and I read that. Why not?
Huh?
Why weren't you astounded? How do you explain
it? I can see it every day. I can see it where I live.
What is it?
Because he appeals to the working class. He appeals to the middle class. The press puts people in silos, right? Not understanding that the white working class, the black working class, the Hispanic working class, the Asian working class, the whatever working class, they vote shoulder to shoulder. They vote for their community. It goes back to place. And that's the thing that people continuously don't understand.
Mm-hmm. And Salena, I only have one last question. Do the people that you talk to in diners and the people that you get a cross section of all of these different demographics, what do they think about the crypto thing? Dave and I have been covering this, and it's hard to get your head around. For me, for somebody who's a dinosaur based in cash currency, the fact that the Trump family and that Donald Trump has enriched himself there are some reports of $600 million since becoming president with this various crypto business or schemes. Does that bother them?
No, they don't even know what crypto is. I don't know what crypto is. It's not even a question I've ever asked anyone. I don't know what crypto is.
But they were furious that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden somewhat enriched themselves to the tune of a couple $1 million. Without question, President Trump has made $300 million on exchange fees alone, in most cases selling direct access to them.
I've not covered this. I know nothing about it. I have no expertise in it. I'm sorry.
So Salena, what's going to happen next? Tell us. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you do have your finger on the pulse of what the mood is. So what comes next?
Well, the mood is people are really happy. Now, again, I straddle two different worlds. If I go on X and I follow certain journalists, or if I follow Democrats, you would have thought the world had ended every day. That's not aspirational. That doesn't win people over. I don't know. I mean, I think the midterms should go to the Democrats, but until they prove that they understand what they need to do to reach out to voters, I mean, they're not learning anything from John Fetterman. They're not learning anything from Josh Shapiro. They're not learning anything from Rahm Emanuel. And these guys.
Fetterman doesn't even want to do his job. That guy, he's a whole nother subject. I'm
That's
curious.
not true. That is absolutely
Well,
not.
he complains that he has to go back and vote and that he can't be in his vacation
He
house.
says
That's
he has to. He
literally what he said.
Go back to vote for stupid things. Very different
Like
than
the big, beautiful bill that impacts every one of us.
He voted for that. Look, in my state, that's how he was as lieutenant governor. So there's not a shock there. That's who he was.
I want to ask you one last question about the book. How do you sell this book to the 50% who has their mind made up that he's despicable?
Well, the book, I mean, even though it's about Butler and what happened that day, it explains why going to places like Butler mattered and why these places, like Erie County, right? Why places like that decide elections and not DC and New York. It's not an insult to DC or New York. It's just the way that the world goes. You know, our big challenge in journalism is the same challenge that corporations, academia, institutions, and Hollywood have. And that there's not a diversity of thought in their boards. You know, everyone is sort of from the same kind of school and live in the same sort of zip code. And until we write that in my profession, until we get better at diversifying our cultural curators, there's going to be this pressure against them from the middle of the country, even if sometimes it's not in their best interest. Our cultural curators are so distant from their lives that it won't matter. And that's why Donald Trump matters. And that's something people don't get.
How does journalism need to change in order to grasp most Americans? What's its biggest problem?
The biggest problem is the cultural disconnect. We have a lot of food, a lot of news deserts out in the country. Small newspapers have closed and closed, thousands and thousands and thousands of them, even in the past few years. And so the people that are covering things that are important to people's lives are now very distant from them. They don't know them. If you're covering Erie, Pennsylvania, and you live in New York, and you've been working in New York, and maybe you grew up in New York, and maybe you went to a really nice school, you're not going to understand in the depths of importance what someone's life is like in Erie. And so that's what makes the challenge. What we need in journalism is more localism. You know, we talk about localism with food, and we talk about localism with clothing, right? How important that is. Well, that's also very, very important in covering people. Someone that lives in New York that maybe went to, Columbia and grew up in Connecticut. They have very little common with a guy who grew up in Erie, maybe didn't go to college, but is successful. He's a small HVAC company, right? He goes to church every Sunday. He goes hunting. He owns a gun. He goes target shooting. That person is very foreign to that reporter. And that's where the tension is. That's why we saw what happened with Bud Light. People thought that people got mad about Bud Light because everyone was transphobic. They completely missed the nuance about why people got mad at Bud Light. They got mad because they were their core customers. Because it's like, but I love Bud Light. Why are you trying to make it this when it's been that for 50 years? Well, you know, the people that make ads for Bud Light moved out of St. Louis. They're in California.
On the 1-year anniversary of the assassination attempt of President Trump, the book is Butler. It is on shelves now, and it is a terrific and compelling read. We really appreciate the conversation, Salena.
Yeah,
We
well-
want to understand. So thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Selena. Great to talk to you.